Welcome to the review before test one. I'm going to go over properties first. You want to use this property, whenever it says use the property to complete, a lot of times students will look at this and they'll say 4 plus 10 is 14, plus 6 is 20. If you say that, you didn't use the property. The property is we're associating the 4 and the 10, and so to use the property would to just be associating these numbers, the 10 and the 6, instead. So don't answer this with 20 because that's not going to be correct. So be careful about that. That's one thing that you want to make sure that you handle. Remember, you associate with different people, and you're associating and grouping in different ways with the associative property. For the commutative property, we've got 2 times 3. Don't say 6, say 3 times 2. Here's another one, 4 plus 8. You could say, to show the commutative property, that you could switch these around and have 8 plus 4, and then plus the 7. Or you could have used this as your pivoting point, and instead of 4 plus 8 plus 7, you could have said 7 plus 4 plus 8. Here's another one with the commutative property. A plus 10 is 10 plus A. Think about this. A commuter goes to work and then comes back in the opposite order. So M times T is T times M. Here's the distributive property. You might have done this one where you take 2 times M and then 2 times the plus 7 to get 2M plus 14. Here, think of this as being a negative 1 in front. So it's negative 1 times x and negative 1 times negative 3. So we get negative x plus 3. Here we've got negative 3 times the quantity negative 2 plus m. So negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6, and negative 3 times m is negative 3m. For the identity property, we've got a number, 5, and we're taking it times 1, which is the identity for multiplication. So 5 times 1 gives you the identical value back again, which gives you a 5. If you're adding, when you have an m and you add 0, that gives you the identical value back again. For the inverse, you're going to take a number and multiply it by something to get that identity element back. So you're going to get either the 1 or the 0 that you had here. For multiplication, it's a 1. For addition, it's a 0. So take a look at the inverse property. We've got 5 times 1/5 is equal to 1. For addition, if I have m, I'd have to add a negative m to it to get 0. So for addition, you're trying to work into a 0. For multiplication, you're trying to get a 1. Here, 2/3 times 3/2 is equal to 6 over 6, which is 1. 1/5 plus negative 1/5 gives you 0. When you use the inverse, your identity is the 0 or the 1 is the identity. That's the identity value that you're trying to get. Here's order of operations. Remember to do parentheses first, then exponents, then either multiply or divide, whichever one you get to first as you go from left to right, and then after that, either addition or subtraction as you go from left to right. So here we've worked out what's 6 minus 1 in the parentheses, so it's 5. This is a multiplication right here, so we're going to do 5 times 5 to get the 25. Now 17 minus 25 is negative 8. Absolute value acts like a parenthesis, so we want to take care of this first. To do absolute value, you're always going to find what one single number is inside the bars, and then make sure that you make that positive. So 7 minus 10 is a negative 3. We're going to take that negative 3 and put it inside the bars. To get rid of the bars, we have to apply the absolute value. So the absolute value of negative 3 is a positive 3. Also, 3 squared is 3 times 3, so we've got a 9 there. Then we'll add the tops and combine the bottoms. So we're combining the numerator, combining the denominator, and we get 8 over negative 3. Here's a problem that's fairly easy, but students often miss this one. So if you want to save yourself a quick point, here's a good thing to understand. If you have negative 5 squared, that's really like negative 1 times the 5 squared. A lot of times students will insert parentheses around this, but if it doesn't come with parentheses, you shouldn't put them in. If it has parentheses, then they mean negative 5 times negative 5, which gives you a positive 25. Just remember that you're supposed to do the exponents before you multiply by the negative 1 that's represented by the negative out in front. Here's simplifying expressions. Always think of these as cat problems. So for instance, here are like terms, 5m minus 6m minus 8m. So 5m, take away 6m, then take away 8m. So 5 cats, take away 6 cats, we're missing 1 cat, and then minus 8 is a negative 9 cats. So when you're adding and subtracting expressions, you're not changing this m at all. So we're just adding and subtracting a certain type of thing. Maybe it's a cat. Here, 4m squared take away 8m squared is minus 4m squared. So here we're adding and subtracting things, so remember that that's not going to change the cat, the type that it is. Minus 6m plus 3m is minus 3m. And then 2 take away 4 is negative 2. In example 3, we've got this negative 1 out in front, and we're going to distribute that to each of these. So it has to change the sign on both of them. The negative 5 is being distributed to each of them. So negative 5 times negative 6 is where we're getting this positive 30. Take a look at negative 2x minus 5x plus 4x combines to get negative 3x. And then negative 3 plus 30 is plus 27. So we're combining like terms on those. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. But over here, notice we'll take 7 squared and get 49, and then multiply by that negative 1 out in front. So that's why we're getting this one to be negative 49, and this is a positive 9. Here's a distributive property, and then we're combining like terms. Number 5, once again, power it up. So 5 to the third is 125. Then take it times the negative number in front. Then we're combining like terms, and I put them in descending order. On the last one here, number 6, we're combining things on the top. So 3 times 10 is 30 minus 7. That's where we're getting the 23. Negative 3 squared is a 9, plus 8 is 17. This is an improper fraction. Watch on the computer when you take the test, because sometimes they'll ask you to give a particular type of value. So this is an improper fraction. If I called it 1 and 6/17, that's what I would call a mixed number. And finally, we're going to use the correct symbol here, either equals, less than, which looks like an L, or greater than. So we've got 2/3 and 4/7. One thing that you can do is multiply going across and arrows up. So 3 times 4 gives you a 12, and 7 times 2 gives you a 14. So I've got a 14 on the left and a 12 on the right, and 14 is greater than 12. So I could say that 2/3 is greater than 4/7. Let's look at 3/5. How is that related to 8/9? If I multiply on the uphill, 3 times 9 is 27, and going in this direction, I get a 40. 27 is less than 40. So that means that the original 3/5 was less than 8/9. Make sure that you're multiplying and having the arrows go in the direction up. Before we do this one, number 3, I'm going to take this and switch. This is a mixed number with a whole number with a fraction. So I'm going to take this and change it. Remember this 5 and 1 6 is 5 times 6 is 30 plus the 1. So 31 over 6. How is that related to 36 over 7? Let's do arrows up and get 217. Arrows up in this direction gives us 216. So you can see 217 is greater than 216. So that means that 5 and 1 6 was greater than 36 over 7. Here, a negative value is always less than a positive value. I'll have one more, another part 2 to this. So check that out, and I hope this helped.